Hello, welcome back to the Brighton Music Conference 2020. We're here at the Southern Bell in Brighton, or is it Hove actually? I'm Mike Seddon from the Loft Sessions, and I'm here with Norman Cook, aka Fatboy Slim. Hello.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
Not bad, not bad.
Feeling well? It's been a bit unusual.
It's quite interesting being here and seeing lots of people that I haven't seen. Well, I've seen lots of people for starters.
Yeah.
But there's kind of half of Brighton's music industry is milling about outside, which has been lovely. A lot of them I haven't seen for 8 months.
At the very least, yes. How's unusual year? How's your year been? It's been how was your lockdown?
Interesting, interesting. Not completely unpleasant. Totally unproductive.
Really?
I didn't have that sort of zeitgeist where it's like, oh, now I'll have time to do the difficult seventh album. I've just been looking after my kids and getting on with life, and also just sort of in denial about my DJing career.
Okay.
Rather than, I kind of sort of made a few little scrabbles of like, oh, can we do a drive-through gig? Can we do this? Can we do that? And then realising after a while that you've just got to take it on the chin.
Sure.
And realise that we just put that side of it on hold. Because the DJing side of it, aside from sort of streaming, everything we do is completely the antithesis of social distancing. So we just have to stand back and go, okay, we'll take this.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're quite busy. You're doing a two DJs, one car. And you were doing like a weekly lockdown mix. I think you're being a bit unfair to yourself there. I mean, looking after kids is a full-time job in itself.
The lockdown mixes that I did a Friday night mix, an hour every Friday. That kind of kept me sane through the first 20 weeks. Just to feel that I was sort of the rest of the world was still out there. And it's great. I mean, I've done a few streams and things like that, which were kind of fun, but they don't really kind of get to the heart of it for me as a DJ.
Sure. What do you think you learned over the lockdown period about yourself or about the world in general?
I learned how to step back and just be me and be in the moment, I think. I think with a lot of people, there was probably a worry that, how his mental state is going to cope with having nothing to do or being in this period of,
uncertainty.
Yeah, uncertainty. That's probably the best way of describing it. So, at first I was kind of worried, but then there's just kind of an acceptance and just a getting on. And like I said, I had 2 10-year-olds for the first 3 months, and so that kind of kept me between homeschooling and feeding them.
That's enough to keep you busy, I imagine. Because I imagine you would be like for the next year. Normally, you'd have your diary booked full, and I can't imagine that's the case at the minute. Even you booked that NHS gig for October, and obviously that's already been postponed to next year. How is it to feel like my diary's free? Was that frightening, or was that quite freeing?
At first, it was quite frightening, but then, like I said, I kind of got into a state where I kind of acceptance of it, and then once I got into acceptance, I won't lie, there were bits of it I enjoyed. It was kind of, especially with the weather being good, it was the first summer off, because normally summer I'm out working the whole time, so it was nice just to stay at home with my kids. Obviously, we were lucky being on the beach down here. And it was this sort of summer off that I'd always promised myself, but I would be too guilty normally to take a whole summer off, or I'd just get really bad FOMO.
There's nothing to miss out on this year, though. So
no, I mean, you just have to accept that we're all in the same boat. If there's been other people out having fun and me not, that probably would have eaten me out. Then my only wobbly moment was the Glastonbury weekend.
Yes.
Just because there was sort of bombardment on every TV show and the radio, everyone was going, this is what would have been happening.
Here's what you
and I got to a point about on the Saturday where I was just like, I don't want to hear about it anymore. I just, can we just accept that it's not happening? That was my only kind of wobbly moment, I think. I kind of got a bit morose about things, but
that's fair. I think everyone's sort of in that same boat, so you shouldn't. Don't beat yourself up too much about it. You did get out to Ibiza though in August. Ibiza Rocks. It was a seated gig, dance music gig.
Yeah, it's a seated pool party. I did 2 pool parties at Ibiza Rocks, and 2 evening sessions at Mambo, which was great. It was lovely just to play to people and have that conversation. And it didn't matter whether they were standing up and dancing, I was still sharing the music, which is what I love doing. And so it was good. It kind of made my heart beat again and reminding me that how much I love my job.
God, yeah.
And enough just to top me up. And if that's all I get for the next 6 months, then I can just live with that.
He's going to have to make do because, as you said, we've got to accept how it goes. Nelly and Woody joined you at your set at Ibiza Rocks. That must have been quite special. Get the kids out.
Yeah, I mean they've been to Ibiza every year, but that's the first time. I mean, probably at a proper dance gig, I wouldn't have let both my children on the decks.
Right.
So that was you take your pleasure in these kind of unique circumstances. Yeah, no, and that was a lovely moment. And obviously, yeah, I did the Nelly did a stream for
very popular
for Camp Festival. Which was just priceless. So there's things like that have happened that wouldn't have happened otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Of course. Have you got any more sort of seated sets planned? Obviously, we've got an 85 decibel cap coming at the minute, which is not very much. Do you think that'll be anything coming up soon? Do you think?
Nothing on the horizon. No. Like I said, we sort of looked at drive-in gigs, and we looked at. But it's, especially with the weather, if we were still having that lovely summer, you could think about outdoor things to do. But rather than scrabbling around, we've kind of come to an acceptance that let's just wait.
I think that's probably wise. I wonder if we could talk about my favourite Fatboy Slim remix, which is Body Moving, the Beastie Boys remix you did. Can you tell me a little about how that came about? Did you approach them with that? Did they approach you? How did that remix come to be?
I can't remember. It was a while ago.
22 years ago, I think, at least.
As far as I remember, they approached me.
Yeah.
But I think I was just asked to do it, and it was. I mean, I think it was a really fun one to do. It's a really because I've been a fan of them for so many years, and it's one of those moments. It's like I can't believe I'm doing this, and sometimes. You wait that long and then you get a remix where you get to work with someone and it's like, it's not really the right tune. And sometimes it's like, if only have been the single before the next one, or But the track fitted me, and I think I did a good job.
You did, I think, completely much better than the original. I think that's fair to say. It was, and they picked that for the Greatest Hits album. I'm saying it, so there you go. Did you get to meet the Beastie Boys?
Yeah. I've done shows with them.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So,
what are they like?
They're lovely.
Yeah,
they're lovely.
You had sort of similar trajectories as them, because you started off in bands, and then kind of moved in towards sort of, as you described it, sort of black music, and you sort of found your path in there, and then ended up working with Spike Jones as they did. So you're sort of on the sort of similar path as them.
I hadn't thought of it like that, but yes, I suppose so. Yeah, the idea of kind of skinny white kids who like black music. I suppose we're united in that.
Yes, and you've both forged your own paths in that kind of music.
Yeah, they're much more serious in real life than they give out. They're much more thoughtful.
Oh, good. That's good to hear. So, you've been making music since before I was born, so quite a long time. Has there been at any point in your career where you felt a bit disillusioned from the music industry? Ever felt like you didn't want to play anymore or make music anymore?
Yeah, I think probably every couple of years you kind of have a wave of self-doubt. I've definitely fallen out of love with making music so much. I love DJing, but I'm kind of not so turned on, which is the reason why I haven't been so productive in the studio. But that's not to say that that's not a temporary thing. Oh yeah, I mean, there's been times when I've realised that I wasn't making very good music, or times when you look at everything else that's out there and just think, where do I fit in with this? I don't like any of that. But I don't know. It's just if you stick around long enough, then you realise. I mean, I've had so many times when I thought, should I be doing this? Am I too old, or have I lost it? But I kind of figure if you stick around long enough, you catch the next wave.
Sure. So you're a DJ, and that's not to be argued with. But the line between DJ and producer and artist are sort of constantly blurring. What does being a DJ mean to you?
To me, DJing is just about the conversation you're having with the crowd, and at that point, at that night, it's however much fun the two of you can have together and what you can propagate. So it's not about trying to promote your new album. I mean, for ages, when I was releasing records, my DJing schedule was based around the album release, and so I wasn't allowed to DJ for ages. And then when the album's out, then I have to DJ all the time.
Sure.
Which is all right. But then when I sort of stopped making records, I started DJing just for DJing's sake. And that I found that much more liberating, because you're not there and you don't get told off if you don't play your own records. You can just play whatever you think the crowd want to hear that night. And also it meant I could go to a lot of other places in the world, because when you're DJing to promote a record, you only go to cities where there's big sales,
sure, or
there's a TV interview they want you to do or something. But then once I was freed up that I was just there to entertain people rather than part of a campaign. Yeah. Then you could go to Malta, right? All of a sudden, all these sort of places that weren't big record sales places, but that had people want to have fun.
Yeah.
And I think it's more honest for me to just go out there and share my favourite records rather than share my records.
Sure.
And just to have fun with people, just for the sake of it, rather than it being a career. And because when you're a DJ and a producer and an artist, then you have to kind of fit the three in together so that they work coherently, and then sometimes it feels a bit like a job.
Yeah, because it's like, what is a producer next to a DJ, next to an artist, or does it matter? Do we need to define what is what?
No, I think in this day and age the three can roll into one, or you could just pick one out of the three and do that, or you could do all three at the same time, and they all kind of feed off each other. If you're, there was a sort of sweet spot probably in my career when I was producing other people, making my own records and DJing, and they feed off each other. You work with other people and you get ideas off them. Or I get tremendous inspiration from watching people dance, and you spend so many hours just standing there watching people dance, and you watch what they react to and what kind of sounds or ideas or rhythms turn them on, and then next time you're in the studio you kind of got, oh yeah, there's that idea. And so doing all three at the same time, I think, complements each other. But there's great DJs who've never made a record, and there's great artists who can't DJ to save their lives. Sure. So it's not to say you have to do two of the three or all three.
So do you think that then performing live is really important to how you then write songs?
Well, I never call it performing live, because I don't really, it's not a show, it's just me DJing. But no, I think one of the reasons that DJs tend to make better dance music is because they've put those hours in studying the dance floor and seeing how it works, and it's like an intuition or an instinct that you've had to put the legwork in of watching dancers work, watching them move to see how it works.
Absolutely. If you were to give 10 painters the same 10 paints, they'd all paint a completely different picture. How, when you've got these samples, what is the sort of process for you for implementing them into a song? How do you, when you hear something like that's what I want? How do you, and because you do everything analog as well, and that to me, as a sort of from the new generation, to put that in, I find that such an abstract concept. How does that, if we can even explain it, how does that work?
For me, it's pretty much just throw everything at the ceiling and see what sticks.
Right.
I'm assuming that's probably what the 10 painters would do with the things. It's just follow your instincts and then look at it and think, is that any good? I think the most difficult thing about making a record is knowing when it's finished.
That was my next question. How do you know when it's done?
Again, you just have to follow your instincts. I think as I get older, I kind of overthink it more, which is probably why it takes me so long to finish a record these days. Whereas before, when you're young, you just kind of go, yeah, this is what I want to do, and it's quite immediate, and you have that kind of confidence and arrogance just to go, right, this is it, this is how it should be. Whereas as you get older, you start to ponder more, and that's when maybe you overthink the records, or you just don't release so many.
Yes. Do you ever listen back to the old stuff and think, oh, wish I'd have done that differently?
Oh, constantly, yeah. Or I wish I hadn't done that at all.
Right. Well,
why did I do that?
But so, did you ever think about going back and just doing like a remastered version of whatever?
No, I don't think there's anything that I've done that it's like there's a glaring error in it. It's just nuances, or I don't know, because the ones that were hits, you kind of think, well, even if I don't think that's right, it seemed to work.
Yeah.
So it ain't broke. And then the ones that weren't hits, you just have to take it on the chin and think, well, You know, there's no tune of mine that I thought that one should have been a hit. If I go back and inflict it on them again, then maybe it will be.
You do your stuff analog still. Have you ever think about moving to a MacBook Pro, getting an Ableton? Is that ever?
I do have a MacBook Pro and Ableton that I use for DJing and for editing stuff and doing mashups and whatever. I don't know. I like I said, I'm just not really turned on by the prospect of making records at the moment. So how I would approach it if and when I do get that thirst, that hunger back.
But why force it as well? Because then that would be insincere, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm having so much fun. Well, up until this year, I was having so much fun DJing, and it was taking up all my time. So, yeah, I don't know. I assume that I would probably be using digital equipment and a laptop rather than trying to make my Atari work.
God, yeah, Atari.
It does, but about every year I get it. I switch it on, and it does still work. So I still technically could make records on the Atari.
No idea how to even work that at all. What's it? How do you even plug it in? Has it got like an XLR input or something?
It's pretty much like it's just a rudimentary computer, and it works along the same lines, but just in a more clunky fashion.
Do you think that the limitations of that? Do you think because we've got plugins now, you can have anything, any sound you want. Do you think the limitations were what made your music so individual? Do you think now, if you started off today, do you think you'd have as much success and as much inspiration as you did back then?
Probably not, and that's probably one of the reasons I don't do it. I have sat down with Ableton and thought, okay, write a tune. But like you said, you've got so much at your disposal. It's like before I would have one drum machine and one sampler and 20 seconds worth of sample time, and it's like work within those parameters and try and use and abuse what you've got. But when you're sitting there and you know in that laptop is every single drum machine, every single synthesizer, and every single sample in the whole world, it's kind of, I find it a bit baffling. It's like, where do I start? Mm-hmm. So in a way, I mean, I enjoyed the process of squeezing what you can out of clunky analog instruments and you know, trying to abuse them or just trying to make them work. Mm-hmm. And with everything put on a plate in front of me, I just sort of go, I don't know where to start.
Absolutely. What's your favourite subject at school?
My favourite subject at school was human geography.
Human geography?
Human geography, not glaciers and mountains and stuff. Humans, why we live where we do and why we behave like we do. And
I see. I thought that was a euphemism. Locating...
like gynecology.
Oh, well, that's what I thought you were getting at. No, okay, human
geography is, it's
like social, as you all...
Yeah, it's like the geography of people rather than physical mountains and rain and erosion and stuff.
Why?
Because I found it equated to real life. Mm-hmm. If you learn physics or maths or something, it's kind of all theoretical. Yeah. Whereas I could learn something in geography and then walk down the street and see it in action.
Sure.
Like see why. For my degree, I did my dissertation on the development of Brighton and why it changed from being a sleepy fishing village to what it is today. And every day when I walk around Brighton, I could see signs of that. I could see signs of, the history of it and why humans behave. And Brighton was built on a fashion to bathe in seawater long before they invented sunbathing.
Yeah. There's no sun, I imagine.
Dr. Russell, a guy called Dr. Russell, wrote a book about the benefits of bathing in seawater every day. And at the same time, he bought up a load of real estate and opened a hotel in Brighton. So everyone read the book and then came down and became very fashionable. And so in the way that Ibiza or Hoxton becomes fashionable, Brighton became the centre of the fashion of England in those days. Mm-hmm. And that's why it grew, and that's why the Prince Regent came down. So it's I don't know, it's sort of half train spottery and nerdy, but also relates to our real lives.
You love Brighton, don't you?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, or me too. And you talk about how it's changed, and I wonder what do you think's next for Brighton town? What do you think? Brighton City now.
Oh, I don't know. Tech capital of England.
Oh, really?
Well, it's been touted as such. I don't know. I just love the individual atmosphere and landscape and culture we have here, and whether it's expanding the wind farm or the tech industry, it's kind of always been a forward-looking, accepting town, city. I don't know. I've no idea. I mean, the world changed so much in the last 7 months. That's going to distort things even further. But
absolutely
interesting question, but unanswerable.
Of course. Oh, I apologise. I won't bother next time. I got a phone call from Warner Brothers before they started, and they've greenlit the Fatboy Slim biopic, but they want to know, who do you want to play you?
Well, it depends what Warners want. Do they want accuracy?
Well, I guess you get some sway. So what should we do, an accurate one, and then
accuracy? I think it should be Kiefer Sutherland.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
Physically, the resemblance,
See that.
Similar age, sort of similar history. I'd put Kiefer to play me, but the old me.
Yeah.
Young me would obviously be James Dean. James. Oh no, he's
James Gandolfini.
No, I don't know.
I thought Michael Fassbender might be a good Fatboy Slim.
As the young me or as the current me?
Sort of maybe in the middle. Maybe Brighton Beach.
Well, he's quite a talented actor. He could probably, with the bit of CGI, he could do both.
I think so. Well, he did Steve Jobs really well.
Is he available?
I'll give him a call back afterwards, and we'll check with his agents. Norman, we're going to open it up now to the questions from some of the BIM students. I hope that's all right.
Okay.
Anna from BIM Brighton asks, "What is your guilty pleasure?"
Ooh. I have so many pleasures that I should be guilty of.
Right.
I'm not. I start with the Carpenters.
Okay, there's nothing wrong with that.
Carpenters. I was brought up on them, and they still soothe me in times of crisis. The dirty burgers they do in Churchill Square, that one in the corner of Churchill Square.
Really?
That's, yeah.
Right, so I said the first one, not guilty. That one, I think you should feel
guilty.
Yes, a little bit guilty. Matt from BIM Bristol says, how has the rave scene changed from when you started compared to now?
I mean, the rave scene is changing daily with what's going on at the moment.
Of
Legal
course, yeah.
raves coming back, and strange things afoot there. I don't know. I mean, the scene sort of evolves with different fashions and technology and whatever. But there's something very, very at the core of it, which is so basic to the primordial human experience that it will never change. I mean, it's about young people going out to escape the boredom or the difficulty of their normal lives, and it's about escape from your troubles for a couple of hours to live in this sort of hedonistic fantasy world, and basically, to put no finer points on it, to get laid and get high. And that probably started in caves, with raves in caves in prehistoric times, and there's different fashions and different soundtracks to it, but that basic primeval, dancing is a form of simulated sex, so we just basically go to get high and cop off.
Sure enough.
And that will never change.
Yeah, I can't imagine so. Do you I mean, we shouldn't condone the illegal raves, especially during a pandemic, but do you think are you happy to see that there's that kind of, grassroots movement of live illegal music?
If I be honest, the responsible human being says no. Mm-hmm. And I hate to be, it would make me sound really old and not down with the kids, but no, I think it's a little antisocial right now. Mm-hmm. If you could just hold that thought and wait till maybe next summer and we can all do it together safely.
Yeah.
It's not the legality about it, it's the safety aspect, I think. I think it's a little irresponsible.
Okay. I think I would tend to agree with you there. Tyra asks, what is your best advice on playing to a difficult crowd? Have you played to many difficult crowds?
I've played to varying degrees of difficulty over the years.
What makes it a difficult crowd?
If they're just not up for it, if they're not up for leaving their egos or their sense of responsibility at the door when they come in, people who just sort of stand at you like going, so when does the party start? It starts when you start having fun. I know there's various means that you could bully them. I often just shout obscenities at them.
Sure.
Or lead by example, have more fun than them.
Okay.
But I think, just shame them into it.
Right.
Just name and shame. Keep looking at them.
Yeah.
Are we having fun yet?
That's a bit aggressive, you don't think?
If you heard the wild track of what I say to the crowd even on a good night,
Right.
I don't know why it's come some kind of Tourette's, and it's part of the process of how I lose myself when I'm DJing. One of the things I do, I just shout obscenities about their mums, and
Right.
stuff like that.
And do people normally respond well to that?
Well, they can't, unless they're really good lip readers, they're never going to hear it, and it's probably best that they don't.
That's probably best. Do people ever heckle you when you're performing?
Again, if they do, I don't hear it.
Oh, right.
There was in, I think it's in Italy. I had a run of gigs where there would be one bloke, everybody would be like having fun, and he'd look, and there'd be one bloke just going like that. And I go, okay, right. And then 10 minutes later, I look, and he stood like that at me. And I'm like, what? Look, hold on. If you're not having fun, you could go to the bar, or, what am I doing that's so much? Was it that one record that you didn't like, or just me, or everything? But it went on so long that I figured that maybe it was the sign of you're doing well. You just can't really tell. So even if people tried to heckle me, I'm not sure that I would be able to take it on board or understand. I mean,
that's what he was doing.
No, because it happened so many times. I was thinking, and it wasn't just one blow. And so I was thinking maybe that Italian youth, that's their way of saying, yeah.
Oh, maybe
do it to me, baby.
That just didn't translate so well. What was the next one? Luke from Bin Birmingham says, "Are you happy with how the Brighton Hove Albion Football Club's season is going so far?"
I am thus far, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good, yeah.
I mean, it won't matter to anybody outside Brighton, but I think Tariq Lamptey is just revolutionising the club. Him and White at the back. Yeah. I mean, every year that we're still in the Premiership is something to cherish and to enjoy. And the fact that we're playing fairly well, I mean, I think we've probably still end up scared about relegation for the latter half of the season, but it's they're making me smile at the moment.
It's been a strong start. I'm happy with it. I am a Liverpool fan, so I'm on my pedestal, so that's fine. So we got some questions from your Facebook page. Daniel Martin asks, he says, "Hi Norman, if you were starting out as a DJ producer, how would you go about approaching your first gigs and record labels, especially since COVID has all but destroyed the clubbing scene? Do we still have a platform to launch any new careers?"
That's a difficult one.
That's a big question.
It's a big question. And the overriding thing, I think, is given what's happened with lockdown, a lot of people at my end of my career can just say, well, it's okay, we'll just hold that thought and we'll be back in a year, hopefully. And just hope that everything is still in place, the venues and everything when we come back. Then I'm very aware that there must have been people who in their career trajectory were just getting that first, bite, first tickle. And for the whole thing to stall at that point it could really demoralise them, or it could stop the momentum that they had. I just hope, I'm famously a Luddite, and I'm not very savvy with social media, and I flounder to keep up with it. So there must be ways and means of launching yourself without it. But it's difficult for up and coming people who are just, maybe that slot at Glastonbury was going to be the thing that really took you up to the next level. I'm aware that they possibly missed out on a chance. But having said that, there's a lot of the greatest minds in the music business working out what we can and can't do. The fact that we're still here doing this means there is something, there are ways and means. And records are still being released, and Bandcamp's doing better than ever. So those channels, but I wouldn't hold your breath for making an impact as a live act right now.
Not just now. But I do feel like next year, if all things go well, I think next year is going to be so big. There's going to be so many festivals that are like back with a vengeance, and there'll be so many big performers that that have just been chomping at the bit trying to get back out on stage.
Yeah, I mean, it's that you could run a book on how this is all gonna pan out. I thought originally that everything would go back to grassroots. When we were first locked down, we were thinking, well, when there are gigs, you won't be able to travel from city to city, so it would be like DJs would just play residencies again, rather than being these sort of globe-trotting affairs. It would go back to like the grassroots. You just play at your local club, and it'd be smaller clubs first. So, and that was my initial thing. I think now there's such an appetite for, you know, whether Glastonbury is going to be on, whether the festival is going to be on next summer, that we might go straight back to where we left off. But I think there's a big chance that next summer might not happen. In which case, taking 2 years off, there's going to be even less festivals and venues that are still in business. There's going to be a whole generation of younger people who haven't spent the last 2 years hanging out in nightclubs and doing what young people do, and they might have found other means. So, yeah, if it all comes back with a fanfare this next summer, then that will be just a beautiful thing, and it will be the party to end all parties. The worst thing is that when you had the Second World War, when you had VE Day, everybody was out. The thing is, when the shutters do come up, it'll be so gradually and slowly that there won't be one day when we can all go, it's okay, it's over, we can go out to party together. You know, we're going to come back in increments, and I just hope it's in time for next summer.
I certainly hope so. Yeah, you think if that was the case, then we would just be right back where we started in some ways, you know, because even like VE Day this year was, I think people forgot what was going on, and that was the cycle repeating itself. Yeah,
I mean, one thing's for sure. If gigs are back on, my next summer looks almost exactly like last summer. Pretty much all the bigger gigs, they've just rolled over for a year. So hopefully we'll just all hold that thought, and we'll be another year older and wiser when we get back to doing it.
I certainly hope so. Aaron Perkis from your Facebook page said, "Norman, full-time DJ here. Could you please ask? Where the future of DJ is going right now? Where is it going to go? With 4 question marks. I'm seriously confused by everything from the government." I know you're not a government spokesperson, but maybe abstract to the whole COVID thing. What do you think the future of DJing is going to be?
I don't know. Bide your time. Hope we get out of it. I wouldn't rely on any help from the government, frankly. No. And I don't know. That's. It just sounded like a rhetorical question.
I think that was more of like, please help.
Yeah. Just hold that thought, and one day we'll be able to do this again.
I certainly hope so. You sort of talked about earlier about like live music was about doing drugs and getting laid. Do you think you need to enjoy taking drugs to enjoy dance music?
No.
No.
I've been sober for 11 years and I still enjoy it more than ever. And I'm not actually, when I'm out there, I'm not looking to get laid. I was only saying that's the general thrust of it. I'm not saying every person who goes out. But no, I mean, that's the rhythm of why we go out and dance and why we, you know, congregate like that. It's not a prerequisite.
Okay, because that's sort of, when I was here at the BMC last year, that was kind of the impression I sort of took away. Because, it was sort of a lot of talk about like sort of the 90s, and obviously that was a big... they sort of come hand in hand. There was kind of that music scene with the drug scene, and I thought, well, maybe that was why people really enjoyed dance music, because they were on drugs.
No, I think it's the other way around.
Okay,
I think you enjoy dance music. It could be more fun, enhanced.
Do you only enjoy drugs if you like dance music?
Sorry?
So you can only like drugs if you like dance music. Then I think that's a better.
Yeah. I think if you're trying to put words on my thing.
Oh no, that's
simplistic view of a very complicated. Thing which I'm not going to be drawn into.
No, I shouldn't, and I wouldn't, and I appreciate that. You've been sober, so and John, congratulations on 11 years. That's really good.
Thank you.
Talk about the Carpenters. What other bands and sort of what kind of music sort of shaped your childhood? I think that
mainly the Beatles and the Carpenters, what my parents liked, and then I grew up during glam rock, so T-Rex and like the Sweet and Slade and David Bowie and things like that. That was kind of my introduction. But I mean, the biggest influence on me was punk rock.
Okay.
I was like 14 in 1977. So it's just when I was looking for rebellion and loud, snotty music that upset my parents. And it delivered that. But also it delivered this kind of revolutionary new independent thing of like, rip up the rule books. You don't have to be a musician to make music. You don't have to have tons of money. You don't have to kowtow to the record companies. And it was a kind of way of taking music back for the masses, which I found really stimulating. And also when you're at that thing of 14, it's like, here's a drum kit, here's a guitar amp, now form a band.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether you actually really knew much about music. It's like, you can do this.
That was the beauty of it, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that for me, that was what punk rock was about. It wasn't about gobbing at people and pogoing. It was about taking control and not the music being for everybody, not just the record company executives.
Absolutely. What do you think of the punk scene now? It's sort of been up and coming in the past couple of years.
That's it?
Yeah, oh God, yeah.
Really?
You're missing out, God.
I should get out more, shouldn't I?
You really should. There's been a big, especially in Brighton. Get down to the Green Door store, sort of when it reopens. Great punk bands coming through Brighton. But even in the mainstream, bands like Idols have been doing really well.
Oh, right.
Punk band. Oh God, you're really missing out. This is, and it sort of really reminds me. It's reminiscent of that, of sort of like people just making their own guitars and going out and playing music.
All right. I mean, I found acid house was a similar kind of revolution. You don't have to be a musician to make music. You just have to switch. In fact, sometimes it's better if you're not a musician because you can abuse the drum machine and the 303 in unheard of ways. And again, people were putting records out themselves, bypassing the big record companies, and independent record labels were coming out. I think there's a similar thing that goes on with social media, that you can bypass the normal channels, and if you're doing something really good, you can just do it yourself in your own house. I suppose, the unacceptable face of it is kind of YouTubers and influencers who just build whole empires. It's just a way of getting through. But for me, it wasn't so much about the music; it was about the attitude.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. I think that still exists, and that independent grassroots, I think that's still very much alive and well. If you hadn't have been a musician, what do you think you would have done with your life?
My dream would be a fireman.
Okay. Why? Why that specifically? It's quite a dangerous job.
Well, there was a point in my career when I thought I might have to get a proper job, when I was having a bit of a lull. And at that point, I did seriously consider being a fireman. Mm-hmm. Just because it's similar to being a DJ or a musician. You kind of sit around with your mates for ages in dressing rooms, inventing stupid nicknames for each other. And then occasionally you go out and you do something really exciting and you get a load of chicks. So that was my basic thought process.
Yeah, I can see the similarities there. Maybe not so much danger being a fireman potentially. I think
well, it's the fear of electrocution.
That was it. Yeah. Has it ever gotten a bit hairy when you're out on stage or dangerous or anything like that?
Yeah, there's slight risks.
Like electrocution?
Electrocution being that's always your biggest worry. Electrocution, there's been, I've been doing this for 35 years, so obviously there's been some thrills and spills. I'm trying to think of something that it's apt to talk about. I'm looking at my manager right now, and he's just going. Oh yes. Yeah. I sort of do. I thought that was just in my nightmare. I didn't realise it actually happened.
In Brisbane, all the speakers.
Yeah, I'm
the stage.
Getting held up at gunpoint, things like that.
And that sounds like an interesting
those
story.
Those kinds of things, yeah.
The police in Shanghai.
No, I was talking about Nassau.
Oh, there's more than one held at gunpoint story.
Yeah, there's been a few gunpoints. Yeah, I mean it's not as dangerous as being a fireman, but there are risks involved, kids.
Oh, I want to hear more about this. For what reason would you have a gun put in your face?
Getting robbed.
Or for sure that.
Getting robbed.
Well,
mainly it's about getting robbed.
Ben Brighton would like to hand over a check. Obviously, we can't do that now because of all the limitations that we've got. But Ben Brighton will be making a donation to Martless Hospice, a local charity that provides terminally ill people in Brighton and Hove and the surrounding areas with the very best care and support. Norman is an official ambassador and a long-time supporter of this incredible charity, and the funds for this donation have been raised for the BIM community, our end-of-term gigs and showcases over the past year. So thank you, Norman.
Oh, thank you.
It's a great charity. Do you want to tell us a little about your involvement in that, perhaps?
There's not much to say, really. Anyone who lives in Brighton probably had some kind of knowledge of Martlets. It's it's the kind of go-to local hospice. So anyone who's had a relative or there would not fail to be touched by the work that they do. as indeed I did. So, and they're nice people to work with, and so I just help with fundraising and spreading the word about.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're all good there, guys. So yeah. Anything left to say to the BMC audience?
No, thanks for having me, and well done for being able to put this together in the difficult circumstances. Fantastic. And hopefully see you all next year.
Bye.